Civics scholars, buckle up, be ready to go. I am going to go through the Constitution Unit study test study guide here with you to make sure that you've got the correct stuff on here. As I mentioned before, not everything on the test is going to be on here, but most of the stuff that we cover on this study guide is relevant to what's on the test. And if you feel good about what's on here, you should feel good about taking the test coming up here in the next couple of days. Just a reminder too, the other thing that would be great to study from was from that quiz that we just took, the open homework quiz that can be used as a study guide as well, because so much of what's on the test was on that quiz as well. So let's get going here. I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. As we go, feel free to edit yours as you want. And see where you're at. So, what's the supreme law of the land? Well, we've said that is the Constitution. It's the supreme law of the land. So that trumps everything. Like if there's a battle between states' laws and a federal law, they go with what's in the Constitution. Number two, what is the Bill of Rights and why were they put in there? Okay, so the first part to that, what's the Bill of Rights? It's the first 10 amendments. And then why were they put in the Constitution? Well, they were in to give people protection from the government. Go. What is the main job of the judicial branch? Okay, each of the branches has a different job, if you remember. Um, the judicial branch, specifically things when they get to the Supreme Court, that is to interpret laws. So, explain what they mean. And that can change depending on who's on the Supreme Court and depending on what the law is. So, if they're asked to interpret the Second Amendment, some people might say, well, the Second Amendment says the right to bear arms. So, you can have any weapon you want. That's what it means. That's how some people interpret it. Other people interpret it as, well, you can't have any weapon you want. Times have changed. Technology has changed things. You can't have a nuclear bomb in your basement. Number four, what is the difference between libel and slander? I'm just going to put L for libel. That is published um, or printed defamation. Okay, remember that's printed material or something that is published that defames somebody. Okay. Slander is spoken. Defamation. Remember, that has to be done on purpose in order for someone to be found guilty of doing that. Like, so these are limits again on your freedom of speech. You can't, excuse me, print something or publish something or say something when you are 100% darn well knowing that it's going to hurt their reputation or damage their reputation. That's defamation. Number five, give an example of a situation that we don't have complete freedom of speech. Well, just kind of that example that we talked about. Can't yell fire in a theater. Yeah, that's kind of the overall, like, because what does that cause? And it does it falsely. Let's just add if there's no fire. Obviously, there's a fire. You can do that. You can start yelling, fire, 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 get the heck out of here. If there's no fire, you can't. And double jeopardy. You tried for the same exact, let's say tried or even charged. Same exact can be charged with theft twice. You can't be charged with the exact same theft twice. So, like this yellow cup. Oops. Like if I steal this cup today, um, and I'm charged with that crime and put on trial for it, I can't then be charged with the stealing of this cup from today again. Now, if I serve my consequence, I'm let out of jail or whatever for stealing a yellow cup, which I don't think I'd go to jail for that. But, um, and I steal a different yellow cup, could I be charged with that? Yeah, I could be charged with stealing a yellow cup again. Shoot, I could be charged with stealing this yellow cup again if it occurred at a different time or on a different date, because that's a different crime occurring. All right, explain your Miranda rights. Well, really, the rights that a person in E must be read any of their um, for any of their um, statements from questioning can be used as evidence. Or if you're not read your Miranda rights and you're questioned by people while you're in custody, they can't necessarily use those statements. Now, if they've read your Miranda rights to you, then, and one of them is anything that you say can and will be held against you in court of law. Explain what federalism means and how it is set up by the Constitution. Well, remember federalism. That's a system of government that sets up layers of government. That's what we have in the United States. We have national, state. I'm just going to put in there 10th Amendment because what does the 10th Amendment say? It talks about any of the powers that aren't stated in the Constitution that are federal powers, those automatically go to the state. And so that just shows right there, like states have some power, the federal government has some power. Again, that's the type of government that we have in the United States, and it's set up right by the Constitution. All right, number 9, who votes to determine the people in the, so like the people in the legislative branch, our senators and our representatives, who votes for those people? Well, I do. The people do. The executive branch, which would be the president, who votes for those, for the president. Careful here. Is it truly the people? I got to vote in the election, but who actually was I voting for in the state of, remember we had 50 different elections in that electoral college system. I was actually voting in the state of Michigan for the electors, and those are the people that vote. Okay, so we're going to say the electors, who I vote for, but I don't directly then vote for the president and the vice president. The electors do. So officially, our election is not done yet because the electors have not voted yet. Um, the states have voted to basically tell the electors who to vote for, but the people do not directly elect or vote for the president, the executive branch. The judicial branch, no one votes for them. Judges are appointed by the president. All right, explain what the Declaration of Independence is and why it was written. Um, it was a list of complaints against British rule. And why was it written? To explain to the world why colonies were taking from British. Right, number 11. What was the difference in the Supreme Court rulings in the court case of New Jersey versus TLO and Tinker versus Des Moines? In New Jersey versus TLO, the Supreme Court ruled with school. In Tinker versus Des Moines, Supreme Court ruled with the students. So here you can see that when some of these First Amendment court cases have made it to the Supreme Court dealing with high school students and issues at high schools, um, sometimes the students maintain what they would claim would be their First Amendment rights. Other times you lose some of those First Amendment rights, and the Supreme Court has ruled in favor in favor of the schools. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Number 12, can the current form of constitution be changed? Yes. Through the, oops, through men. We didn't speak specifically as to how that works, um, but it's a big long process, and it has to go through the states and the state legislatures, and a certain amount of states have to vote for it. And like I said, it's a long, tedious process, and that's why we don't see it happen very often. And that was done on purpose. We don't want our government to be able to be changed like rapidly with some just wacky ideas. Like for an amendment to get passed in the Constitution, it's got to be supported by a lot of the states and a lot of the state legislatures. That means a lot of people need to support this. So it has to be something that's like pretty popular, and a lot of people want that to change. And um, it can take years for an amendment to pass through the Constitution. Again, that's done on purpose. We don't want this document, the Constitution, to be something that we can change all the time just on a whim. Right, number 13. Let's see here. I'll go back to number 12. I'm going to add this in here. We also want to realize that it is, though, a flexible document. Like it's a document that can be changed. Um, Something that's flexible, right, is something that can be twisted and turned. And this goes back to as well, like it can be interpreted differently based on what people think about it. So it's flexible. It's something that can be changed. Explain checks and balances, 13, and why it was put in the Constitution. Well, we want to have checks and balances so that one branch of government does not become too powerful. Each branch has the ability to check the other two branches. We'll talk a lot more about this in our next unit of study when we talk about the three branches of government. But um, overall, we want to make sure that the legislative branch has the power to stop or not let the executive branch or the judicial branch do certain things. The same thing with the judicial branch. We want to give them some power to stop the executive branch and the legislative branch from doing some things, as well as the executive branch. We want to make sure that branch has the power or ability to stop the judicial branch or control the judicial branch from doing certain things. And same thing with the legislative branch. 14. What is the difference between the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause to the freedom of religion part of the First Amendment? All right. So the Establishment Clause says that government cannot establish enforce a specific, I don't want to say force, that's a bad word. Government cannot establish, let's just leave it at that. A religion on its people. Whereas the free exercise clause says that people can exercise. Remember when you're exercise, you're like active, you're doing something. So let's put actively participate in any religion they would like to, or no religion at all. Obviously, there are some limits to this. You can't like you can't be committing like human sacrifices, which would be murder, and claim that it's your free exercise clause. It's part of the religion that you're worshiping. Like that wouldn't fly. But sometimes you can do things that are typically maybe illegal if you can prove that it is a part of your religion. 15. Why will you have the right to vote when you are 18 years old? Because of the 26th Amendment. And again, this shows the flexibility of the Constitution, right? This wasn't in the Constitution when it was first written way back in 1787, ratified 1789, and all that jazz. Um, this was a change that was made to the Constitution, one of the last ones, because there are only 27 amendments. So it was one of the newest amendments. But it just shows, again, this is just an example, shows the amendment process and that the Constitution is a flexible changing document. 16. Lastly, it's like a pet peeve of mine when things go on to a second page if they don't have to. So it's up one, and I think I can fit one more answer on here. Yeah. Oops. So this is gonna look funky, and that's gonna bother me. Oh well. What was the structure of the Articles of Confederation? Who had more or less power between the state and national government? That's kind of what that's asking. So the states. Said kind of stuff. 17. Oh no. Oh well. Oh, there we go. That looks a little bit better. States had more power than national. So did they fail? Well, that's why they failed. uh, there was no, let's just say there was no ability to stay consistent nationally. When the national government didn't have much power, like it allowed for the states to create their own money, right? So we had 13 different types of money, which was a mess for the economy. Um, the national government could raise an army, but with what money? Like they had no money to raise an army, so they had to rely on the states then, or they would have had to rely on the states to help defend the country. And if Georgia in the South is being attacked by some other country, like yeah, we want to defend them, but if Massachusetts way up north, are they going to send troops? Maybe, maybe not. As opposed to us having a like now when it's flipped, our national government has an army that they take care of. Like we don't depend on the states for some of that key crucial stuff, and that's really one of the big reasons that um, the Articles of Confederation failed. The states had way too much power, or or maybe we can just say the national government didn't have enough power. to make things run smoothly. So there you go. That is the study guide. Um, Again, this is a great guide, I think, for helping you study for the test coming up. If you go through this stuff and you know all this without, or you could just sit back and relax here because you knew everything, I think you're all set. You probably don't need to study much. Maybe just look over this a little bit before the test comes up. But if this was seemed like a lot of new information to you, or you didn't know a lot of this stuff, then you probably should take some time to study. And again, that second document that I would suggest using pretty much as a study guide was the quiz that we just took, the open note, open homework quiz. If you were able to go back through and put the correct stuff on there, you've got another great study guide there. So between these two documents, study up. I think you guys are all in good shape. If you've been just paying attention and doing the work in class, you'll do just fine. Again, if you've got any questions on this stuff for me, there is advisory time, or let me know if you want to meet during advisory on Monday or on Tuesday if you haven't taken the test by then during those office hour times. Just let me know. Reach out via email or message me on Google Classroom and let me know that you want to meet up or you've got a question or something like that. We can see if we can work our way through it. All right, thanks for tuning in. Happy studying.